All right, and welcome to the second of the midweek market recaps where we're going to go over crypto and stocks, just what I think about it midweek. Planning on doing these every Wednesday, assuming you guys like it. And I just note that with feedback, with likes and comments and shares and all that kind of stuff as a data nerd. And what a week to do it. So let's just get right into it here. If I click that button, there we go. So first of all, Bitcoin here, right? Just as kind of a proxy for all of the major cryptos, you can see that this one's not doing too hot. It's still hanging out kind of under this range. Let me draw that better right in through here. So as long as this range is can't be broken, and call it 65,000 or so, then I'm just gonna kind of hang out outside of Bitcoin, looking at some other names like Engine, for example. I don't know what this coin does, but it's holding above these recent highs. So if we get a move up on top of that, that's one I'll be interested in. Only other thing that I really want to note in the crypto space is how well Ethereum is doing relative. So we noted that Bitcoin was holding below this high right here, and Ethereum is holding above. So, look at Ethereum, look at smart contract, different coins, things like that, and just kind of avoid, things like the Algorand actually looks pretty good. I'm in this one as well. Anything that's holding above this kind of spring high, this prior resistance, I'm interested in. Anything holding below it, I'm not, right? That can just kind of go. Now, before we get into the SPY, which I'll just bring up here for a second, you can see an ugly, ugly close kind of at or near this area right here. That actually brings me to this blog post right here that if you haven't read already, I will link in the description below, as well as my website and all of the tools I use to trade, always in the description below every single video. But, here, again, this chart looks pretty close to what we look like right now. But this was actually done in September during that last kind of panic sell-off everyone had. And I basically, I'll leave it to you guys to read, but I did a lot of study based off, the market closing at the low of the day and then tracking that forward a few days after that. And you can see the equity curve that you would have gotten basically if you just buy the Qs or the SPY when it's in an uptrend and it closes at its lows. So go over here to our trade ideas and you can see that's kind of exactly what I did today. We had, this prior resistance area right here that we sold down pretty hard to, and you can see we closed right at the low of the day there. So on the Qs where I ran the back test for that, you can see the same thing, slightly above this recent high, but closed at the lows. So I picked some of that up again, just because it's statistically has a chance that we're going to have a little bit of at least a turnaround pop, if not just a change in direction entirely. But, that doesn't negate the fact that there has certainly been a little bit of damage done here. We don't want to be biased about that. But what I am looking at primarily, let's just start with the IWM, which is the ugliest of the bunch as the small caps. And I've got this drawn out. You can see this range that we've been in here all year. And we had a little bit of a break above, but that looks like it was just a kind of a bull trap in hindsight. And now we're back into this range. So for me, I'm really interested in kind of what's going to happen at the low end of this range. Are we just going to bounce back up? Is it going to just crash down through? I will say that the RSI here is oversold. I don't really believe in, buying oversold or overbought or anything like that. But again, you can see this kind of sideways chop that's been happening all year. It wouldn't surprise me if we're just going to continue to do that until the end of the year. I was saying that a bit before, and then I kind of threw in the towel and said, oh, maybe I'm wrong, and we're not going to be range bound after we had this little break, but then right back into the middle of the range. You take a look at the SPY, it's kind of the same thing. Sorry, not the SPY. I use the RSP. For you guys that don't know, the SPY is cap weighted. So it essentially just means that the larger the company, the more impact it has on the SPY, whereas this RSP is the same stocks, but it's equal weighted. So it just means that every stock has an equal weight in the index. So basically, it's not heavily weighted towards companies like Apple and Amazon and like the largest name companies out there. It's more of a representation of what the average stock is doing. So here on the RSP, we're just smack dab in the middle of this range. Again, you could probably extend the range even down here. So this one's doing a little bit better than the IWM in the larger cap space, whereas this one is, or where the IWM is a little bit weaker. So, I'm not panicking like a lot of the rest of the world is. It's obviously not good. This is obviously not bullish action. However, we're still above this inclining trend line. We are still above the low end of this range. We're down 5% from all time highs. So, really, nothing that I'm insanely concerned with. Basically, my synopsis is going to be if we hold on to these lows down here over the next week or so, then I think we're probably just going to continue to be range bound, right? Just like we've done pretty much all year. Again, if you kind of draw your range like that and just remove that top little bit that happened, you can see again we got a long way to go to the bottom of the range, but we're still in a range. So uh, obviously, what do you do now? So this is something that I just wanted to address in this. A lot of people go, okay, we're in a range. Maybe we're selling off. Definitely, at least for the past few days. What do I do? What's the game plan here? Now, for me, my plan always as a swing trader is when the market is acting like this, anything that's not working in my portfolio, I kill right away. Anything that is working or not selling nearly as much as the market is holding on, that stuff I'm putting on watch list to potentially add to when the market turns. And then at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm always building and refreshing a list every day of what is not selling, like what is doing well relative to what the market has done the last little bit. Because the way I trade as kind of a relative strength trader is that when the market turns, the stuff that's gotten hit down the worst has a whole bunch of resistance to get through. The stuff that held up the best when the market was selling, that's the stuff that I think is going to continue as the market continues as well. So, one way to make that list, if you are, let's go back into here. If you're a Trade Ideas member, this scan that you can kind of barely see here above my face is a scan that looks for just that. It's a algorithm that I made in conjunction with Trade Ideas that looks at relatively strong names. So I'm using a lot of this to make a list like this. OXLC is interesting. Box is holding on really well. None of these I'm just going to buy just because they're holding, but I'm just looking at these and comparing them. If you take this AIG and then you compare, or AJG, sorry, and you compare this to what the SPY is doing, it's holding up really well. So what I'll do is I'll add all of these to lists, I'll set price alerts, I'll do everything like that. And then when the market starts to look healthier and starts to turn, I have a whole list of names that have held on. And as those things start to break out, I know that I'm getting into the stronger names. Same kind of thing happened, right? If you were to buy some of these names when they were strong before, you got really good gains out of them as the market turned and things broke out. If you don't have access to Trade Ideas yet and you want to give it a shot, again, links are always in the description below. Full disclosure, those are affiliate links, so they'll help out the channel. And then if you have Trade Ideas and you're not seeing the TI Strength algorithm in there, just make sure you're updated to the latest beta. And under new, you'll see a Market Explorer window, and it's in there for you. So that's what I think about the market. Again, crypto looks fairly kind of neutral to me. The equity markets are obviously weak. However, they're not as weak and scary as I think a lot of the world is panicking about, right? So if you're someone who watches CNBC or is on Twitter, I'm neither when it comes to trading. I'll go on Twitter to talk with other technicians and things like that, but never about the news. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, there's a lot of panic out there. So the way I look at it is very, very simple. As long as we are holding above this range in the IWM, these lows here, I'm not super worried. If we, smash down through below those, that's where I may say, okay, well, now it's time to move a little bit more to cash, but the plan will always be to remain the same to me. What is not selling, what is holding strong, and those are the names that I'm going to continue to trade. Ignoring everything that's falling apart because I just don't want to hold through pullbacks like that, and shift into names like, again, STX here, things that are holding strong. That's where I want to put my money. Again, if the market is going to continue lower. Again, I hope you guys like these midweek wrap ups. And if you do, again, like, share, send around. The more, the data shows in the back end, what you guys like is more what I'm going to make. And always in the comments below, tell me what more content you want to see on the channel. I'm always looking to do more. I just need to, get a little bit of ideas of what it is that you guys like to see. I'll talk to you soon.